everyone, it's Angie at Angie's Place. Thought we'd sit down and do a little bit of the Bible today. Figured we'd do 3 chapters today. Oh my god, I think I just got interested in, oops, went a little over. So I'm going to read you today 15, 16, and 17 of Matthew. And we're doing it out of the source New Testament. And yeah, learning some new stuff all the time. So it's great. If you are interested in learning more about the Bible and what it actually says, like one of the things I actually learned is that Jesus is not the one who is going to be judging us. The disciples are. Jesus handed that to the disciples and said they were going to be judging all of humanity. So that was very interesting. It makes sense. It really does. It makes sense to me anyway. They are human and they went through a lot. They understand what it's like to be human. And so yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Anyway, if you'll do me a favor before we begin, click on the like button and the subscribe button. The like will help me out a lot by helping circulate it throughout YouTube. And then the subscribe button will mean you won't miss any of these. I also, not only do I do fellowships, I do a few unboxings, so please check those out too if you're interested in it. Either way, whatever I say, whatever we read on, comment down below if you had an inspiration of something or if you disagree with something I say when I stop for a moment and, you know, talk about it. Yeah, please comment down below. I love discussions, and discussing God is always important because we learn that way from each other. Okay? Anyway, here we go. Okay, chapter 5, Matthew 15 says, "Then the Bible scholars and the Pharisees who were from Jerusalem went to Jesus and asked, 'Why do your disciples overstep the mark when it comes to the elders' tradition? They don't wash their hands in a special ceremonial way when they eat. Why do your traditional teachings cause you to overstep in mark as well as when it comes to the commandment of God?' Jesus replied, 'God says, honor your mother and your father.'" Oops, I'm sorry. Your father and your mother. Oops. I'm sure that's important. "And the person who physically or verbally abuses their father and mother must certainly be put to death. But you say, whoever says to their father or mother, 'What you thought you would get from me, I am keeping for myself.' I just have to say it's dedicated to God, and then I can keep it. And then that person does not honor their father or their mother. In this way, you have made God's word useless by your traditional teachings. You overly critical, hair-splitting, pandemic religious types. Isaiah prophesied about you correctly when he said, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, and in vain they worship me. Their teachings are rules made up by people.'" So we're supposed to listen to God's rules. Are we supposed to do what the law says? Yes. But if it is in conflict with God's laws, then no. God's laws are the supreme. He made everything. So it's his laws that we should uphold. Anyway, so we should always read from the Bible because it actually tells us what the actual laws are instead of what us humans, or some humans would interpret them because they want us to see it a certain way, or they want to look good to the crowd, or whatever the reason being. We should always uphold God's laws, and by doing that, we should listen to his word. Which is why I started, one of the reasons why I started reading it. The other was my daughter said it sounded like I was jumping around when I was only reading what was from the Bible. Anyway, let's keep going. I know you don't want to hear me rambling. Okay. "He called the crowd over and said, 'Listen to this and understand. It's not what goes into the mouth that pollutes a person, but what comes out of the mouth that pollutes a person.' Then his disciples came up and asked, 'Did you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard that saying?' Jesus replied, 'Every plant which my Father of heaven has not planted will be uprooted. Leave them alone. They are blind guides. If a blind person leads a blind person, both of them will fall in a ditch. Makes sense. Makes sense to me. Anyway, yes, obviously what we eat. He didn't say it could make us sick. He said it could pollute us, and he's talking about our spirit, our souls. So that is what he's talking about. So we have to be on guard with what we think and what we do, because our actions speak louder than words, and it is also a part of our brain. So it's obviously listening to us and doing what we tell it to. So that all makes sense in that way. Tell me down below what you think. Please. I am very interested to know what you think. Anyway. 15, we're starting on 15:15. Peter asked, "Please explain this example to us." "Don't you have a clue yet?" Jesus exclaimed. "Don't you understand that whatever goes into the mouth goes into the stomach? Then it comes out and goes into a toilet. The things that come out of the mouth actually come from the mind, and they pollute the person. Out of the mind come evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, porneia, thefts, telling lies about people, and blasphemy. These are the things that pollute a person. Eating with unwashed hands does not pollute a person." This is very true. Let's put it this way. You've seen homeless people have hearts of gold, and then you've had people who eat. They're very good health-wise. They eat very healthily. Their meal plans, everything. Junk food doesn't touch the lips. Sugar doesn't touch the lips. Nothing. But if you're not going to nurture the soul and your mind, then it will die. And nurturing it by God's word, it's how we grow. Because he wants us to be kind to everybody. He wants us to show everybody his love for everybody. Is it easy? Oh, no. It is very hard. We are human after all. But he wants us to try. And with his help, we can do these things. But we need his help. Otherwise, the world gets in the way. And it can hurt us. And it can make us bitter. So we have a choice to make. Is it going to make us bitter? Or are we going to use what God gives us? Because there's a reason for everything that he wants us to do. I'll go a little bit maybe more into that when we get to the end of it. Anyway, where was I at? Porneia. Porneia, we got down here in the notes. It says, a term referring to acts condemned in the laws of Moses. Acts encompassing adultery, pornography, vice, certain sexual acts. In other words, you're supposed to be married. And you're not supposed to have adultery with others. You're not supposed to have sex with animals. No equivalent English term. There's no, according to this, there's no equivalent English term. So, Dr. Nyland, if you go back and watch one of my earlier episodes, explained about Dr. Nyland. She is, for those of you, some of you already watched and you know, but others, she always wanted to learn the language and to learn about the culture. So, because she was interested. Her father would come home. He was a preacher and he was a Greek philosopher. And with that, he would come home, and her uncle was too, by the way. He'd be so upset, and her father and her uncle would just be talking about that they don't know the Bible, and how can they say that? So she had it in her to really, God put a really earnest thing in her saying, hey, you got to go do this. You want to go do this. So she did. She wanted to see what God was actually saying. So that's what this is. And is it any different than any other? Very little is very different. But there are some things. Like there were women preachers and other things like that. So, like I said, it's all pretty much the same. There's just a few instances where it is a slight difference, because you have to remember, the people that translated this were the first one who, I think the first ones who translated it were the king's own people. So being that, there were some things that were left out too. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. We got lots to go over. Okay, Jesus left there and headed for the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman came from the region and shouted to him, "Have pity on me, Lord, David's descendant. My daughter has an evil spirit, and badly." But he didn't say a thing. His disciples urged him, "Send her away, she's calling out after us." He answered, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." So he was sent to get the lost sheep. We are the lost sheep. Because when we became one under Jesus, we also have the inheritance. Because we're Gentiles, but we all have that same, anyway, it says, it does say it. We have, what am I thinking? Oh my gosh, my brain just, please God help me. Inheritance, thank you. Thank you. Inheritance. We are one with the inheritance now. Does Jerusalem come first? Yes, Jews do come first. They always have. But now we are one with them because we are their brothers and sisters. Okay? Now you put it this way. If you adopted somebody, they would be your child just like as if you had them. Because they're your child. Well, that's what we are. We're adopted. But we're blood. Doesn't matter. We're still blood. You can dispute that if you want. That's okay. But if you think about it, that's really what it is. Anyway. Oh, down below it did say you must not do the deeds of the land of Canaan, into which I'm about to bring you. So, and the Canaanites, they had incest, sex with in-laws, sex with women as a rival to her sister. Women or men having sex with animals, child offerings to Molech, male homosexual sex, sex with a woman during menstruation. Note also that polytheistic Canaanites were particularly despised in the Old Testament, and the male temple prostitutes were part of their worship of the goddess Asherah. So the cult prostitution and Enoch castrating themselves and therefore dressing as a woman in woman's clothing. And the both were figured into the worship of Canaanite goddess Astarte. So we're not supposed to do those things because they were done in Canaanite, and it's because that's how they worship the goddess Astarte, something like that. Anyway, so with that being said, because I know some of you heard the word, homosexual sex and dressing up as women type of thing. No, we're not. If you're a man, no, you're not supposed to dress up as a woman, and vice versa. However, those are old laws. The main laws are the laws of Moses, and Jesus said that he came to add to them, not take away. Okay, but the same goes whether you are a man with man, a woman with woman, or a woman and a man. My husband happens to be male. I prefer males. That's who I am. I grew up as a Christian, and that's who I am. However, according to the Bible, there were all different types of marriage. Okay? So, I think it's the same thing. Whether you're male or female or whatever the issue may be, the biggest thing is you are to be married and you don't cheat on each other. You don't go after the brother or the sister or whatever it is. You're loyal. Loyalty is amazing. When you have a loyalty to each other and trust, it just brings so much. Loyalty brings trust. So with that in a relationship, if you sleep with somebody else, you just broke it. And those of you that are able to fix it, I congratulate you. That is amazing that you were able to do so. I commend you. And that is truly amazing. Anyway, let's keep going. She came and fell on the ground in front of him and said, "Lord, help me. It's not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs," Jesus answered. "Yes, Lord," she said, "but even the little dogs eat crumbs that fall from their master's tables." Then Jesus answered, "My dear lady, you have great faith. You will get what you want." And her daughter was instantly divinely healed at that very moment because she had faith. She said, "I'm just a little pup, but I still get food from my master's table." So she believed wholeheartedly that Jesus could help you and he was the Son of God. I mean, he's healed so many people and she believed it. We'll go on, because mustard seed is coming up. For those of you who've heard the stories, mustard seed is coming up. Jesus moved on from there and went around to the Sea of Galilee. He went onto the mountain and sat down. Large crowds went to him, and along with them were lame, blind, mute, crippled people, as well as many others. They put them directly in front of Jesus and healed them. And consequently, the crowd was shocked when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled restored to their original undamaged state, the lame walking, and the blind seeing. And they praised the God of Israel. Jesus called his disciples over and said, "I feel compassionate about the crowd. They stayed with me for 3 days now, and they don't have a thing to eat. I don't want to send them away hungry, in case they get weak as they travel away." His disciples exclaimed, "How on earth are we going to get enough bread out there in the desert to fill up a large crowd?" Jesus asked, "How many loaves do you have?" 7, and a few little fish. Oh, I think we did read this. Okay, well, we read an extra chapter. Oops. Jesus ordered the crowd to sit on the ground. He took the 7 loaves and the fish and expressed thankfulness, broke in 2 pieces, and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowd. They all ate their fill. Afterwards, they picked up 7 large person-sized baskets full of leftovers. And there were 4,000 men who'd eaten, as well as women and children. He sent the crowd away, got into the boat, and went to the region of Magadan. The Pharisees were on chapter 16 now. The Pharisees and the Sadducees arrived and asked Jesus to prove himself by showing them a sign from heaven. He answered, "In the evening, you say, bread at night, shepherd's delight. And early in the morning, you say, bread in the morning, shepherd's warning. You know how to tell what's going on with the sky, but you can't tell what's going on in the times. A wicked and adulterous group of people wants a sign, but the only sign it will get is the sign of Jonah." At that, he promptly left them. So, some of you, if you don't know the sign of Jonah, God wanted to go preach in Nineveh. Well, they were wicked people, and Joseph did not want to go. So Joseph tried running away. Well, what happened is he obviously by sea, he went by boat, and the boat, I don't know whether he got off the boat, got thrown off the boat. I have no idea what happened there. Anyway, Jonah ended up in the well, in the belly of a well. Some of you might not know, but there's air. It's just a big open space to sit in there. But it gets oxygen and all that. And so that's where he's at for 3 days. Typhon said, "Okay, I'm willing to go. Please take me there." Got tired of his own company. And he knew he couldn't hide from God. God put him there. So he rode the well all the way to Nineveh. The well in Nineveh. I know it sounds crazy, but the things that God can do are amazing. So anyway, so he did. He went to Nineveh and he talked to them, and a lot of people turned away from evil and went to God. Anyway, so when the disciples arrived at the other side, they discovered they had forgotten the bread. Jesus said to them, "Watch out for and avoid the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." They discussed amongst themselves and said, "It must be because we didn't bring any bread." Jesus, aware of it, said to them, "You faithless lot, why are you discussing the fact that you haven't any bread with each other? How come you still don't understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves of bread that fed 5,000? And how many baskets of leftovers you picked up? Don't you remember the 7 loaves of bread that fed the 4,000? And how many large baskets of leftovers you picked up? How come you don't understand that I wasn't talking about bread? Avoid the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." Then they caught on to the fact that he wasn't telling them to avoid the yeast in bread, but to beware of the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. When Jesus arrived at the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I, the human being, am?" They answered, "Some say John the Baptizer, but others say Elijah, and others say you're Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But you, who do..." Sorry about that. Let me get a drink real fast. Sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, I think I found. Okay. Simon Peter answered, "You're the anointed one, the Son of the living God. You are a blessed person, Simon Bar-Jonah." Jesus exclaimed, "This wasn't revealed to you by human beings, but by my Father in the heavenly places. I certainly say that you are Peter, the stone, and I will build my assembly upon me, the rock. And Hades' gates will not triumph in the encounter with my assembly. I will give you the keys to heaven's realm, and whatever you tie up on earth will have them been tied up in heavenly places. And whoever you release on earth will have been released in heavenly places." Then he ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the anointed one. From that time on, Jesus started pointing out to the disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and experience many things at the hand of the elders, chief priests, and Bible scholars, and be killed, and be raised on the 3rd day. Peter took him aside and started rebuking him. "Jesus, no way, Lord. This won't happen to you." Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get out of my way, adversary. You want to trap me. Your mind isn't on the things of God, just on human things." Then Jesus said to the disciples, "If anyone wishes to follow me, that person will have to utterly deny themselves, take up the cross, and follow me. The person who wants to preserve their life will lose it, but whoever lets go of their life for my sake will find it. What good will it do if they gain the whole world and lose their life? What will a person give in exchange for their very life? The human being is to come with splendor that surrounds his Father, bringing messengers, and he will reward each person for their actions. I tell you, there are some standing here who will not experience death until they see the human being coming in his realm." 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and his brother John up on the high mountain in private. Now, if you remember that, I'm on 17 now. However, I want to stop for a minute and remind you about the one passage before that. It lets us know some of us will live till the end. That is what it was saying. So we are going through it. That is one instance where it shows that we are going through everything in the end times. Revelation, if you want to say it, we will get there eventually. We'll get there slowly but slowly. Slowly but slowly. That was like good, wasn't it? Okay, let's keep going. His appearance was changed in front of them. He shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as light. And Moses and Elijah appeared talking to him. Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it's nice that we're here. If you like, Let's make a shelter here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, a bright cloud cast its shadow over them. Suddenly, a voice came out of the cloud, and it said, "This is my much-loved Son. I am very pleased with him. Pay attention to him." When the disciples heard it, they fell to their faces and were very frightened. Jesus went over and touched them. He said, "Get up. There's no need to be frightened." When they looked up, they didn't see anyone except for Jesus. As they traveled down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Don't mention the appearance to anyone until a human being has risen from among the dead." His disciples asked, "Why do the Bible scholars say that Elijah must come first?" "Elijah does come to restore things to their original condition," Jesus answered. "Let me make this clear. Elijah has already come." They didn't recognize him, but did what they liked to him. They are about to treat the human being in the same way. Then the disciples realized that he was talking about John the Baptizer. While they were approaching the crowd, a person came up to him, knelt down and said, "Lord, have pity on my son. His convulsions, and he suffers really badly. He often falls into the fire and into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him." Jesus answered, "You faithless and perverse group of people, how long will I be with you? How long do I have to put up with you? Bring him here to me." Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was healed from that very time. Then the disciples went to Jesus privately and said, "Why couldn't we throw it out?" "Because you didn't have much faith," he answered. "Let me make this clear. If you have faith like a mustard seed, you will see. And nothing, If you have faith like a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." While they were assembling in Galilee, Jesus told them, "The human being is about to be betrayed and arrested. He will be executed, and on the third day he will raise up." And they will all be extremely sad. When they reached Capernaum, the people who collected the annual temple tax went to Peter and asked, "Doesn't your teacher pay the annual temple tax?" "He sure does," Peter answered. And when he arrived at the house, Jesus anticipated him and said, "What do you think about this, Simon? Who do you think the kings of the earth take taxes from? From their people or from others?" Jesus said to him, "In that case, their people are exempt. Nevertheless, that we don't offend them, go to the sea, cast a hook in, take the first fish that comes up, and when you open its mouth, you will find a valuable coin. Take that and give it to them. It is enough for both of us." In other words, God will continue to take care of them. Oh, I did write 15, so we didn't go over that before. Oops, I need to write 17 before. Oh, we need, I think 18, because we did 16, 17, and we are on 18 next. Okay, so chapter 18. So we did read 3 chapters today. Okay, that's good. We had a little bit more further today. Anyway, what I get from everything, I guess the main thing that God wants us to know is faith and believe. Do good to people. Excuse me. Do what your government requests. Obviously, if it conflicts with what God says, then you do what God says. Otherwise, you pay your taxes. That's what they want. You obey their laws. But you show people kindness and mercy and love. And hopefully, eventually, they will come around. Not everybody will, but some of them will join us. And the bigger the family, the better. So, may you go in God. Bless you. And thank you for being here with me. If you have any thoughts about what we read, please tell me down below. I'd like to have a discussion with anybody. Any insights that you could share with me? Wonderful. Please do so. Anyway, or if there's anything else you want to read, I was thinking about going off and talking about this every once in a while, because this is very interesting too. This is the complete books of Enoch. No, it's not in the Bible. It was taken out because all right, I feel that there are things in here that humans were not ready to hear about, because this does talk about the angels and it talks about heaven's realm. So if you want, we can talk about this. I can do a video in between, or do a couple of Bible and then do a little bit of this one. Or we can just read the Bible through and then read Enoch. Let me know before what you want me to do, because I can do both. It's okay. They're both interesting. I just like reading them and learning more about God and talking to all of you. So, thank you. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe before you go, if you haven't yet. And have a blessed day. Bye.